Welcome to the deep dive. Our goal here, as always, is pretty straightforward. Take all this material, the reports, the statements, the analysis, and pull out what you really need to know.
And today, well, we're going deep into something truly disturbing. We're looking at the anatomy of control, specifically focusing on the systematic crimes of John Jamelske.
Yeah, the man sometimes called the Syracuse Dungeon Master.
It's a dark one. This deep dive is going to focus squarely on how he did it, the mechanics of his criminal enterprise.
We're talking about a period, 15 years?
That's right. 15 years of sustained, methodical abuse. It ran from roughly 1988 right up until he was caught in April 2003.
And the conviction?
Ultimately, 5 counts of first-degree kidnapping. He got a life sentence, but with parole eligibility after 18 years.
Right. But the fact that this went on for so long, 15 years, it just demands we look at his method.
Exactly.
So our mission today, let's break down Jamelske's modus operandi, the MO. How does a seemingly ordinary guy, living in suburban upstate New York, build and run this elaborate hidden prison?
And maybe more importantly, what were the specific psychological tools he used? How did he maintain that absolute systematic control over people for months, even years?
We really need to map out the exact mechanics of that control system he built.
Okay, so to really get how his MO worked, you first have to understand the camouflage. Jamelske was, well, a master of seeming completely ordinary.
Mundane, almost. He lived in Fayetteville, DeWitt, right? Just a regular Syracuse suburb, quiet.
Totally unremarkable on the surface. He presented himself as this kind of eccentric but harmless neighborhood guy.
And the sources paint this picture of someone intentionally forgettable, a retired handyman, a skilled carpenter.
And crucially, also a real estate investor. This part's important.
How so?
Well, by around 2000, he'd actually managed to amass over $1 million through property investments plus an inheritance.
Okay, so that financial stability, that's maybe the first piece of the puzzle, his first control mechanism.
I think so, yeah. That image, blue-collar guy, financially independent, it made him basically invisible.
People might see him as odd, maybe a bit of a recluse.
But not a predator, not someone capable of this.
Right.
And there's another grim factor that aligns with the timeline. His wife.
What about her?
She was reportedly bedridden from 1988.
The year he started.
Exactly. Right until her death in 1999. That whole decade.
So that gave him the isolation he needed, the empty house, maybe the motive some sources suggest, seeking gratification, his wife's illness prevented.
It lines up. He had the opportunity, definitely the resources, and the perfect cover.
Okay, so he had the setup. Let's talk about the next layer of his system. Who he targeted, his targeting MO.
Ruthlessly calculated. That's the only way to describe it. He didn't just grab anyone off the street. He specifically went after the vulnerable.
And the age range was huge, right? From teenagers to middle-aged women.
Yeah, sources confirm victims from as young as 14 all the way up to 53 years old.
So what were the specific profiles he looked for? The reports seem to show a clear pattern, selecting people already kind of isolated.
Definitely. We see distinct categories emerging. Runaways, including African-American and Latina teens, people who were vulnerable, maybe due to substance use, like LSD is mentioned.
And foreign refugees, too.
Yes, specifically a Vietnamese woman who apparently spoke very little English. The choice seems so deliberate.
Choosing women and girls whose disappearance might not raise immediate alarms, or whose stories, if they ever got out, might be dismissed.
Precisely. Deemed unreliable by authorities or even family. It's a calculated move to maximize his control and minimize his risk.
Just maximizing that isolation from the start. His first known victim, she was only 14, a Native American girl.
That's right. And he held her for over 2 years, from 1988 to 1990. Imagine, 2 years.
And how did he get them? The initial lures?
Deceptively simple stuff, capitalizing on immediate needs, desperation.
Like offering a ride in bad weather, basic human needs.
Yeah, or that example of the 14-year-old Latina runaway. He apparently lured her by offering to pay her to deliver some kind of secret package.
Exploiting her need for cash, maybe a sense of purpose.
Just basic needs.
Yeah.
Shelter, transport, money. Enough to get them into his car, into his house. Then the switch flips from helpful stranger to abductor. Instantly.
It's terrifyingly efficient. And there's this other angle the prosecution brought up, connecting his victim selection to his hoarding.
Yes, this is where it gets even more chilling, if that's possible. It brings his whole profile into this sharper, more terrifying focus.
Okay, let's unpack that. The sources say when police finally searched his house, it was just squalor, filled with trash, systematically.
Stacks of old newspapers, magazines, thousands upon thousands of beer bottles, receipts going back decades. He kept everything.
Evidence of his whole life. He had, what, over 13,000 bottles hoarded when they arrested him?
Yeah, an unbelievable amount. And the district attorney really latched onto this.
How did they connect the hoarding to the victims?
They suggested the diversity of the victims, Native American, Latino, Vietnamese, white, black, wasn't random at all.
They called it another form of collection.
Exactly. In his, quote, distorted mind.
So the prosecution's saying he approached people like he approached beer bottles, just collecting them, documenting them.
That seems to be the core argument, yeah. The psychological link they drew is critical. Jamelske wasn't just grabbing people impulsively.
He was amassing a collection.
His property, to be cataloged, stored, used according to his own specific compulsive needs. That hoarding mindset can't discard anything, must retain everything it translated directly into how he treated human beings.
He wasn't looking for a relationship or connection?
No, he was looking for objects. Objects to serve a specific, documented purpose in his world.
It makes his whole approach feel almost clinical, like he was acquiring inventory.
Which leads us right to the environment he built to store that inventory.
Okay, so if Jamelske was collecting people, the next logical step is, how did he store them, preserve his collection?
And that brings us straight to the bunker. The architectural cruelty of it. This was arguably the most complex piece of his MO.
Yeah.
It wasn't opportunistic. It was planned, purpose-built, a subterranean prison.
The details are just chilling. Sources say this concrete bunker was built 3 feet underground, right under the yard of his normal-looking house.
Yeah. And think about the sheer scale, the effort involved. 8 feet high, 24 feet long, 12 feet wide.
That's substantial. That's not something you dig with a shovel on a weekend.
Absolutely not. This required serious excavation, concrete work, probably took months, maybe even years, and all hidden, somehow, right there in suburbia.
Which raises the question, how does one guy, a retired handyman, move that much earth, pour that much concrete without anyone noticing? Neighbors? Contractors?
It suggests incredible vigilance on his part. Cunning execution over a long period.
And the structure itself. It wasn't just for confinement, was it? It was designed for control from the second someone entered.
Total disorienting control. The access system alone was a masterpiece of concealment and, frankly, difficulty.
Okay, walk us through it. How did you get in?
First, there's a steel door, hidden behind a storage shelf in his regular basement.
Okay, first obstacle. Hidden entry. Then what?
That door opens into an 8-foot-long tunnel. And this isn't a hallway you walk down.
You couldn't stand up.
No, you had to crawl. On your hands and knees, imagine that immediate sense of humiliation, physical struggle, just to move forward.
Forcing submission right away.
And after crawling the length of that narrow tunnel, you hit another steel door, heavily locked.
2 steel doors, plus a crawl space designed to be arduous, claustrophobic, impossible to escape from quickly.
And even then, the final entry into the main bunker chamber wasn't easy. It was this small box near the top of the room.
Like an opening high up.
Yeah, you had to sort of turn your body, maneuver yourself in, and then step down a small 3-rung ladder into the main space.
The whole entry process sounds designed to strip away dignity, awareness, any sense of power, instantly.
Absolutely. And once inside, the physical degradation just became the norm. Victims were subdued immediately, tied up.
Often with an ankle bracelet, chained right to the wall.
That's what the reports say. And police later found photographs confirming it, women chained to a wall, like property, immovable.
And the conditions inside, described as squalor, right, despite his later claims.
Total squalor, yes. Let's talk sanitation, or the lack thereof. Sources describe a crude toilet setup. Basically an aluminum chair frame, no seat, just positioned over a bucket or a pail.
Grim.
But here's where Jamelske's self-delusion comes in. Later, when arguing to the parole board, he actually insisted it wasn't just a bucket. He claimed it was a proper portable camper toilet.
Trying to make it sound slightly less horrific.
Yeah.
Rationalizing.
Exactly, trying to argue for some minimal level of humane treatment within this chamber of horrors. It tells you a lot about his need to sanitize his own actions, even to himself.
And the bathing situation, you mentioned that was possibly even worse.
Arguably.
Yeah.
There was a stained bathtub, sitting on a raised wooden deck, but victims were forced to bathe using a garden hose.
Just a hose.
Just a hose. And here's the kicker, the architectural flaw that became constant torment.
Yeah.
There was a drain plug in the tub, but no actual plumbing. It wasn't connected to anything.
Where did the water go after they bathed?
Straight onto the concrete floor. It just pooled there.
Creating this constantly damp, moldy environment.
Exactly. Investigators confirmed it. Cold, wet, perpetually unsanitary. The water just stayed until it eventually evaporated, making the air thick and foul. The environment itself was an instrument of stress.
And yet, wasn't there some bizarre claim about bubble bath?
Oh yeah, his attorney actually brought that up, claiming Jamelske often provided bubble bath, as if that somehow mitigated the squalor, the mold, the garden-hose bathing.
The contrast is just stark. It perfectly illustrates his warped reality.
Completely. As for climate control, it was minimal. Just an 8-inch aluminum hose rigged up to pump some warm air from the house furnace above.
Enough to keep him alive, basically, but not comfortable, not combating the damp and mold.
Not at all. But the physical design, the squalor, that was only half of it. The walls themselves became part of the psychological torture.
Written inscriptions, graffiti.
Yeah, revealing this terrifying internal landscape he lived in with this bizarre, violent mix. You had religious phrases, peace symbols.
Juxtaposed with what?
With pure aggression. Messages like hate scrawled on the wall, and that chillingly misspelled phrase, ready to rook us sick, so bring on the pain, written in deep crimson.
The irony is almost unbelievable. Didn't one source mention a phrase next to a crucifix?
Peace to all who enter here, right next to a crucifix. The cruelty is just calculated.
And wasn't there another phrase confirmed by a former victim years later?
Yes, critically important. One victim who'd been released long before the bunker was found, she was able to tell investigators definitively that the phrase wall of thugs was written in there.
That confirmation is huge. It links the space directly to the experiences of all the victims across years.
And it shows his control wasn't just physical chains and locked doors. He built this theatrical environment mixing hope and degradation, religion and hate, forcing his victims to live inside his own warped, angry, messed up worldview. The room itself was part of the brainwashing process.
So the bunker set the stage, this horrific physical container. But the real core of his MO was the program he ran inside it. The systematic abuse designed to just shatter reality.
Absolutely. And the core function, let's be blunt, was relentless sexual servitude.
Daily rape.
The sources are tragically clear on this. Daily rape was a constant, predictable feature of captivity, whether someone was held for months or for years.
This wasn't random violence. It was scheduled, institutionalized.
Exactly. Designed to enforce absolute submission. The sheer regularity of it was a control mechanism. It eliminated any space for hope, any chance of relief.
But what happened if someone didn't comply immediately? Did he use other violence?
Oh, yes. When compliance wasn't instant, he used targeted violence as a clear punishment to enforce obedience.
Like this cigar burns.
Yes. He's known to have inflicted cigar burns on at least one victim who resisted him. A clear, agonizing, scarring, pain-compliant signal.
And wasn't there an account of deafness?
Yes, another survivor reported being slapped so hard, so violently, that it caused permanent deafness in one ear.
These acts just established the terrifying cost of any resistance.
Ensuring the systematic abuse could continue, day after day, unimpeded.
But beyond the physical violence, his real, maybe twisted, genius was the psychological warfare, destroying any hope of rescue.
That's where the police syndicate fantasy comes in. This was maybe the ultimate psychological cage he built.
Okay, explain that. He didn't just say he was powerful.
No. He told them he was part of something much bigger. A vast, untouchable, underground slavery syndicate.
A syndicate that unbelievably included the police.
That was the core of the lie. He claimed the very people sworn to protect them. The police were part of it. His partners, or even his bosses.
Claiming institutional backing for his crimes, how on earth did he sell such an outrageous lie?
He used a prop. A physical object to make it seem real. He showed them a fake sheriff's badge he'd apparently found years earlier.
So in their isolated world, trapped in that bunker, seeing a badge, that would feel like concrete proof.
Exactly. Tangible proof that the authorities weren't saviors. They were part of the system holding them captive.
And that lie served a dual purpose, didn't it? First, total isolation. Don't even think about trying to escape or tell anyone if you get out, because the cops will just bring you back.
Precisely. Complete hopelessness regarding external help. And second, it twisted the whole idea of release.
Now.
He explicitly told them that compliance specifically, making the daily rapes easy for him, would speed up their release. That the timeline wasn't up to him, it was dictated by this imaginary syndicate, his bosses.
So he made their cooperation, their submission during the rapes, the key to maybe getting out someday.
He turned their survival instinct against them, making them complicit in managing the terms of their own abuse in the hope of eventual freedom.
Psychological devastation of that. And we know they internalized this fantasy, right? Because of the videotapes found later.
Yeah, the tapes are horrifying evidence of how effective this was. Police found tapes showing at least one victim completely broken by this lie,
Pleading directly to the camera.
pleading to the supposed bosses, arguing her case, saying it would actually be better for the syndicate's operation if they just let her go home.
She was negotiating within the rules of the fake reality he'd built for her. It's just mind-bending.
Absolutely. And if the syndicate fantasy was the ultimate cage, the forced documentation was maybe the peak of his sadistic control.
Making them chronicle their own abuse, actively participate in recording their degradation.
This might be the single most chilling detail of his entire MO. He required them to keep meticulous calendars. Some of these covered 15 years.
15 years of records.
Yes, marking specific dates with these simple, awful code letters. These weren't diaries of feelings or thoughts. They were mandated logs of trauma.
Let's be specific about those codes because they really summarize his whole system.
The key codes were brutally simple. S stood for sex, meaning rape. B was for bathed. And T was for brush their teeth.
So he forced them to manually record the dates of their rapes, right alongside basic forced hygiene.
Yes. It blurred the line between what might look like minimal care, making them bathe, brush teeth, and the mandated trauma of the rapes, all logged together with the same detached formality.
It turns their personal suffering into his administrative data. Forcing them to write that S, it externalizes his pathology onto them, makes them the recorders.
It destroys any possibility of internal denial, doesn't it? Forces them to confront the reality, the frequency of their violation every single day they marked that calendar. Total psychological domination.
And this pathological need for accounting, for record keeping, it ties back to his profile, right? That financial fantasy he seemed to have.
Directly. It's almost unbelievable. But despite the horrific abuse, he viewed his relationship with these women through this incredibly warped lens of a business transaction.
We have to pause on this. The DA confirmed this.
Yeah.
Jamelske kept detailed notes, used those calendars.
And calculated that he had to, quote, pay them for that, meaning pay them for the rapes.
He also deducted room and board.
Yes. That's the truly staggering level of his warped perception. He deducted room and board from the supposed payment for years of systematic rape and imprisonment in a damp, moldy bunker.
Wait, he's charging them rent for the privilege of being held captive and abused in that hellhole.
That's essentially it. It's this cold, bizarre accounting of human life. By creating this debt system compensation minus the cost of their squalid confinement, he reframed his crimes.
Into a business deal. He wasn't a monster. He was just a landlord collecting what was owed.
It allowed him to maintain his delusion. And we know he actually followed through on this bizarre financial MO sometimes.
Like giving one victim $210 when he released her.
Yeah, saying it was just so I wouldn't be broke. Another report mentions a victim getting $585 after a long captivity.
That small, calculated payout, it just solidifies his view of them as property. A transaction completed, not human beings.
So for 15 years, this whole system, the bunker, the syndicate lie, the calendars that held up.
And part of that resilience was his planning for the end of captivity too, right? His pre-release protocol.
Definitely. He was clearly thinking about evidence, about controlling the narrative right until the very end.
Aware of forensics. Sources suggest he deliberately avoided sexual contact for a few days, right before releasing someone.
Seems likely.
Yeah.
And that tactic worked. Remember, the victim released in 2001, her rape kit came back negative. No semen evidence.
Which would make it incredibly hard for police to build a case at that point. It stalled the investigation.
Exactly. And he didn't just control the physical evidence, he controlled their story after release too.
Like the victim forced to write that letter home, claiming she was in drug rehab.
Yes, that 26-year-old victim.
Yeah.
Her family believed the letter. The police thought she was just a missing adult who'd left voluntarily.
Yeah.
Case closed. His system was designed to withstand those external checks.
Okay, so after 15 years of this meticulously controlled operation, what finally broke it? What went wrong for him?
Ultimately, it seems to have been a moment of supreme and fatal confidence. Overconfidence.
This involves his final victim, the 16-year-old.
Yes, the girl known as Mika in reports.
Yeah.
He abducted her in October 2002. After several months inside the bunker, something seems to have shifted in their dynamic.
Investigators mentioned she might have managed to befriend him, maybe some element of Stockholm Syndrome.
It's possible. But whatever the reason, Jamelske did something he hadn't done, seemingly, for over a decade. He started to relax his strict MO. He acted with this dangerous sense of invincibility,
By taking her out in public.
repeatedly, which is a massive breach of his own established security protocols.
Where did he take her? The sources list some specific places.
Yeah, high-traffic public places, a karaoke bar, a pool hall, Turning Stone Casino, which is huge, even shopping at the Carousel Mall.
Just flaunting this hidden life right out in the open.
It's baffling, after years of such strict secrecy, that geographical freedom, that repeated public exposure, that was the crack in the system, the fatal flaw that brought the whole thing down.
And the escape itself happened at a bottle return center.
Yes, in April 2003. Just a mundane errand. But the 16-year-old saw her chance. A brief moment, unsupervised, maybe.
And she used a quick excuse, asking to call a church.
A quick ruse, yeah. Asking if she could use the phone to call a church about service times. Smart thinking under pressure.
But instead,
Instead, she dialed her sister. Told her where she was, what was happening.
and the sister checked the caller ID.
That was the key. The sister got the caller ID, pinpointed the business location in Manlius, and immediately called the police.
And the police response was fast.
Incredibly fast. Within 14 minutes of that first broadcast, based on the caller ID, they tracked Jamelske down nearby and arrested him. Just like that.
Wow. After 15 years, and once he was in custody, the physical evidence must have surfaced quickly.
Immediately. The discovery of his house, that hole in the yard, the tunnel, the 2 steel doors, the bunker itself, it instantly validated everything previous victims had ever claimed, going back years.
And the evidence inside the bunker confirmed the whole systematic nature of it all.
Undeniably. Like the victim who wrote the drug rehab letter years before she could identify specific, bizarre details, like that "wall of thugs" phrase written on the wall, perfect corroboration.
But the most damning evidence, it was the evidence he forced them to create, wasn't it?
Those calendars. The collection of calendars spanning 15 years, documenting every single instance. S for rape, B for bathed, T for teeth brushed.
His own pathological need for control, for meticulous documentation, turned into the most comprehensive proof against him.
The MO itself contained the seeds of its own destruction, documented by the victims themselves under his orders. His system was, in the end, his undoing. #tag outro.
You know, looking back at the details of John Jamelske's methods, it's terrifying because it just shows the precision with which this kind of predatory evil can be built and then maintained right under everyone's noses in a normal town.
It really does. We've systematically unpacked the architectural horror of that bunker and the intense layered psychological abuse, that syndicate fantasy, the forced diaries.
Those calendars.
Those calendars, yeah. What it really lays bare is the calculated cruelty that someone can sustain methodically over decades.
He didn't just see them as victims, did he? It was colder than that.
It seems he viewed them as property, carefully selected items for his collection, to be systematically abused, meticulously documented.
Yeah.
His control went so deep it even extended to forcing them to chronicle their own trauma, making their suffering just another part of his sick, permanent record.
It's an unforgettable profile, sobering, calculated abuse hiding right there in the suburbs.
And we've laid out the deep details of that MO, the 15 years of planning, execution. But when you think about the end, the flaw, what really stands out to you about the moment it all collapsed? Was it that sudden, almost inexplicable confidence, risking taking his final victim out in public, blowing his whole system wide open? Or was it simpler? Just that tiny window of geographical freedom he gave a 16-year-old.
Armed with nothing but a quick lie and a sister ready to act.
Exactly. Was it the grand mistake, or the small opportunity that finally broke that carefully built 15-year system of control? Something to think about, how sometimes the smallest breach can bring down the most entrenched, elaborate structure.